The fear of failure was a big one in the beginning. Because what happened to me was, I was 27 years old and I was like miserable. And I just kept trying to figure out what my life was for. Because I discovered something, that the two most important days of your life are the day you're born and the day you discover why. And at 27, I just hadn't figured out the why. And I walked into a comedy club October 8th, 1985. First time ever in a comedy club. Didn't even know comedy club existed. I actually went there on a dare. A girl dared me to go to this comedy club because she knew I was funny. I won amateur night that night, October 8th, 1985. I went to work the next day and quit my job. I won $50 and I went to work and quit my job. The day I quit, my boss, as I put my box on his desk and told him I was leaving to be a comedian, he talked me right out of it. He said, "Steve, you're not even funny." He said, "I've never heard you say anything funny since you've worked here. I've been selling insurance for 2 years." He said, "Are you kidding me? You've got a family. You put that stuff back on your desk and I'll give you your job back. But don't you ever come in here again with something ridiculous. You're gonna be a comedian." I took all my back to my desk and put that back on my desk. Dude named Russell Middlebrooks came up to me and said, "Hey Harv, I thought you was quitting today, man." I said, "Nah, I talked to Tom and he told me I wasn't funny." He said, "He don't know you." He said, "Dog, you the funniest dude I know." He said, "Man, see," and then he looked at me, he was so hurt. He said, "Damn, dog, I told everybody you was leaving today." He said, "Man, I can't believe you letting that tell you what to do." And he swole me back up because I had been deflated. And I took that box right back in and I said, "Tom, hey man, I'm really funny, I'm gonna make it." He said, "I'll tell you what, you leave out this door, don't ever come back in here again." So I tried to shake his hand. I said, "I'm not shaking your hand." He said, "You're making a huge mistake leaving your family out like this." He was right, I became homeless. I made a big mistake. I became homeless, I lived in a car for 3 years. Probably about 20 years after that, he was at a show. And he said, "I came to the show, I saw this Steve Harvey." He said, "I couldn't believe it was you." He was backstage, he said, "Oh my God, I always knew you were gonna make it." But that was, overcoming that was my biggest. And then none of my family believed in me. The only family member I had that thought it was a good idea was my father. Because my father was really funny. He just grew up in a time for blacks that was very different. And he just said, "Son, if you think you can make it, get on out there and get discovered." My father was born in 1914. It wasn't good. My grandfather was a slave. My grandfather was born into slavery. My grandfather was a slave till he was 12. So my background of people becoming successful was like, and my dad was the only one who believed in me. Everybody else told me no, laughed at me, all kind of shit. When you're going through stuff like that, man, it's pretty easy. I almost gave up. Everybody has a turn back moment. I almost gave up a couple times because it got pretty hard for me. I was going to ask my father, could I come home and stay there for 3 months and get a job? Because my father had a rule for all the boys: once you leave the house, you can't come back. He was pretty strong with that rule. The girls could come back home anytime they wanted to. The boys, you can't come back here. So calling him and asking him, could I come home, was pretty tough. And then I got a phone call. Remember back in the day, you had an answer machine and you could press in a code and you could play your messages back. I was about to give up and I pressed the code one day, and it was a guy named Chuck Sutton from Showtime at the Apollo. And he said, "Hey, we got a gig for you Sunday night. If you can get here, we'll put you on TV Sunday night." It was a Thursday. I'm in Florida. I got $35. I'm homeless. I'm fitting to give up. And I didn't have enough money to get to New York. And I sat there and I started crying on the side of the road, man. I said, "Man, I finally get my shot to be on TV and I can't even get there." So I sat there. When I got through crying, I said, "Man, let me call back and see if he said this Sunday." So I picked up the phone and I dialed again, and they said, "Yeah, this Sunday." And I got ready to hang up, but another message had come through since And it said, doop. He said, Steve Harvey, this is Tom Sobel from the Comedy Caravan. If you're anywhere close to Jacksonville, Florida, if you can get there Friday night, I got $150 for you. I'm in Pensacola. So I jump in the car, I got $35. I drive to Jacksonville, Florida at the Punchline. I do the gig Friday night, they give me $150. I did so good, the guy asked me to stay over Saturday night. He paid me another $150. I got $300.